Hello, David R. Becker here with BeckerArt, and today I want to talk to you about choosing your subject matter when you're plein air painting. Last week I was at PACE 24, which was the Plein Air Painters Expo, and we went out every afternoon and we would go out painting, and I had to choose something to paint. And not knowing the spots, and kind of scout around and you're looking for great spots, and you take your viewfinder with you, or your camera, and you're taking pictures of areas, just trying to figure out what it is that you want to paint. And there's many things that go into what you would like to paint and what is there. And so it's very much a personal choice. You kind of go in and go with what you kind of like, for one. But I was watching a lot of the students, and a lot of them would basically get there, sit down, find a spot really quickly, and just start painting. And I guess that's okay. It's okay to do that for practice and try to just see. But as I'm sitting there and they're asking me questions, and they would come up and ask me questions about their painting, and if they would have done like maybe a value study beforehand, they would have seen what was the problems they were having right from the get-go. And so I would go and just tell them that, do a thumbnail sketch, or a value pattern, or a no-tan kind of thing, just so that you can kind of see the values in the pattern that you're doing with the picture that's in front of you. Of course, a viewfinder helps you. Either there was a viewfinder that was at the expo that was brand new. That's this expo. That was this viewfinder. It's called a Fairfield Finder, and there's great. And I'm going to do a video on this one day. But it's a viewfinder, and it'll show you how to kind of look at the subject matter and see if it's going to be rectangular, horizontal, vertical, what kind of subject matter you're going to do, what kind of lights and dark pattern you're going to have. And so that was one of the things they had there at the expo for sale. And again, I will tell you about it in some next video when I actually get out there and show you how to use it. There's also, just when I take my photos, I kind of look at the photo and I kind of put the picture in and out and kind of see, but you need something to kind of frame in the image, the area that you want to paint, right? You want to go in there and just kind of see where lights and darks are at. And when I saw people not doing that, I really realized, and they're that kind of using the exercise, just they're trying to figure it out while they're painting. And so basically they're painting a value study. And so and if it doesn't work out, then you're out of luck, because then you've already done half the painting and realize that it's not working. Let me just show you this scene, or this scene I had painted. This is a painting I had done, and it's raining. But this scene right here was in a farm that we went to, and I was looking around, and if I looked at the subject matter, I saw that I like people in the subject matter, and this is like a farmer's market, and there was people coming, really crowded in this place. And so I really thought I'd take a bunch of pictures of that. And so I did. I took them from the outside in, inside out. I'd be farther away. So it was just fun to go through a bunch of these different views. And I finally chose this one. And knowing that I was going to put a person in there, though, because there were a lot of people in there. And I do like to put people in my pictures. And so if I didn't put people in my pictures, then I would maybe look at it a little bit differently. But knowing that I'm going to be putting a person in there, I would take and look at some of the people. And I actually would take photos of these people walking in and doing these things as I figured out that's the spot I want to do, and I want to put somebody in there. And so basically that's what I did. I just kept on waiting for a lady to come by, and then this lady came by, and she put something into the scale there. And so that was perfect for what I wanted to do. And like, she goes away, but now I have in my camera, I have the picture, and so I put in there, and then I just watch people. And being an illustrator for so many years, I can pretty much put something into any scene without even looking at the image. But having an image is just really nice to have. But then I put lighting on her that was a little bit different from what it actually was, and clothes, and I kind of made her different than she actually was, because that's what I do. I'm an illustrator, and I just want to make it something. I want to put her in, but these other people in this picture, if you look back there, all those other people weren't there. And those I just made up. Those I totally made up. And you can do that when you've been an illustrator for 35 years. Now, if you're doing something like this, and you don't have that ability, then you'd have to sit there and hire people to pose there, right? And so you definitely wouldn't want them to be sitting there, so that you can actually draw it up when you're plein air painting. So anyways, So what it was that I started drawing this, and I didn't do a thumbnail or a value study. I did that in my head. And basically what I had done is I saw that everything on the inside of the building, underneath the roof there, was dark, right? And everything that was outside was going to be my lights. And then of course the oranges and the ladies' arms and stuff have some light on them, but basically it's the background, which is the light, and everything on the inside is either middle tone or dark, and the oranges or tomatoes, whatever they were, those would be then my lights. And so I figured that was a pretty decent composition for my light and dark pattern. So then let's go over to this scene, and I was at the Biltmore one day, and then the same thing happened where I had to go and figure out, what am I going to paint? And again, I took all these photos, and in my head, again, because I do this with my head, I do it in my imagination and my memory, and not my memory because I'm right there, and I squint my eyes. So squinting your eyes helps you to see the lights and darks and gets rid of the color, and then you can choose a good value pattern. And then you gotta also figure out, what are you painting? Are you painting this castle, this estate? Basically, this is the Biltmore estate. And so am I going to do the actual building, or do I want the building as a background scene? Do I want to put people in the foreground? Is there something in the foreground that would help me, like if I look at this? So basically, if you're doing the building itself, if you just want to do the building, you would go in there and maybe look for something that's more like this, where it's not so much the foliage around it, but you're actually up on the building, right? Something like this, this is like real far away, so that would be a background. That would be the background of the image of the castle and the buildings. So would that make the foreground then? It's kind of like the center of interest. I guess if you're doing it just like this, that'd be fine. It's vertical. And a horizontal would be the same thing, would be kind of like in this thing right here. Then again, being in the distance background. So if you're this far away, the building really isn't part of the center of interest, because it would be more or less this awning here. This awning here, this overhang of flowers and hysteria, or I think they call that, but they weren't blooming. So, but that could be part of it, and this would just be a background. But then it would maybe be fun to have something in the foreground too, to make it a little better. So then I would go more with this, if you're going to do the background, and then have more of this scene in front here kind of be more important, and that's just the background. Again, if you want to do the building, so if I'm going to do the building, let me just show you this slide. I would basically do this. If I'm doing the image as just the building itself, then I'd maybe go really close in on it and basically bring it all the way up, and maybe the sculptures that were in the foreground, that'd be part of your center of interest. So this part of the building would be a center of interest and not the whole building. So again, and then you still again see the difference between this being about the building. This is not about the building. This is the building in the background. So these are all choices you have to make. And then while you're making those choices about what you want to paint, then you also got to look for a pattern of values or color or something. So there's a value pattern, a pattern of even lines and lights and darks. It could be, and like my picture that I did before with the inside and outside being light and dark, that could be the same thing. Keep it very simple when it comes to your light and dark pattern, but you need to do a little thumbnail and figure this stuff out before you start painting. I saw so many people sitting there starting their painting and basically doing their value study as the painting, because I mean they were just basically drawing it on. I mean, maybe unless they have it in their head, like I had been an illustrator for so long, I can see it basically in my imagination. I can actually see that because that's what I did for 35 years. Maybe that's it. But some of the students came up to me afterwards and asked me if I could help them, which I did. But all the time I saw what they were doing is that they were never doing a value study, never doing a composition, knowing what the composition is going to be, knowing where the light pattern is going to be. It doesn't matter if you're in your studio or if you're outside. I paint the same. I'm painting the same if I'm right in my studio and I'm with you guys and doing the painting on Thursday nights. I do the same there, where I look for the pattern of light and dark. Now, when you're outside, you don't have that capability. Well, actually, you kind of do have the. If you have a camera, you can have the capability of making your image black and white. If you take a shot and kind of look at it and kind of determine what the shot will be, and then you sit down in front of it, and then you just start painting. But now you already know, even with your camera or your viewfinder, you're looking through it. With your viewfinder, you can just keep on putting it in front of it, squaring it up, figuring out where the frame is going to be around it, because you do have to put a frame around it in some way so that you know what's in this corner, what's in that side, what's in the top, what's in the bottom. So you know it's encompassed inside that the image that you want to do. Do you want to do a vertical, horizontal? You know, you have to know all that stuff before you get started. So I say to you, it doesn't matter if you're outside plein air painting or if you're in your studio, do yourself a favor and do a thumbnail sketch. A thumbnail sketch is just as good as a value pattern, value sketch, in that it's smaller. It's just like it says, maybe 1 inch by 2 inches, very small, just to determine your composition and your value pattern. It will help you so much. And all those people that asked me to do it, that's the only problem they had, because their drawing was pretty decent because they were right there. Their colors were fine and everything was great, but they just never put the pattern together. So it was kind of like they'd have tangents all over. There wouldn't be no center of interest really. It was just a picture of what they saw right there. You know, make it something. Make it something like you would do any other thing. Like when you're in your studio and you're taking their photograph and you're kind of cropping it here and there and making it black and white so you can see. You can do that outside the same as you can do it inside the studio. All right, and so that's just me seeing what had happened out there with a bunch of my students there. They weren't my students, but they were students that would really like to learn. And so it was fun showing them, but I'm just hoping that you guys understand that no matter if you're plein air painting or if you're outside or whatever you're doing, whatever you're painting, urban sketching, look for a pattern. Look for a pattern, a composition, and do that before. I know oil painters a lot of times don't do. They maybe do a thumbnail study more than they do a value study, but a watercolorist really needs to do that, because you want to do one wash with your watercolor, and you don't want to go back over and over and over and over. Though you can, but you don't want to. All right, so we're going to do something on Thursday. They're going to have a couple choices, I think. So I'm going to see if you can choose what I will be painting. I'm going to take a couple images and see if you can, well, you can do a picture of many different ways. And so maybe I'll give you different choices and see what you would pick when it comes to composing your picture. It's important, you know, spend some time looking through images, looking through, if you're going plein air painting, looking around the subject matter, and pick out a decent one that you're really going to work well for you when it comes to lights and darks, all right? Okay, so we'll see you on Thursday for a paint along, which I do every Thursday for anybody that's new here and getting my newsletter new. So we do one every Thursday, 6:30 Central Standard Time, and I'll see you there. Bye-bye.